Most people who grow an avocado from seed never see a single fruit. Not because they did anything wrong, but because they made the choice before understanding what that choice actually cost them. Time, space, and years of effort can disappear quietly before the truth becomes obvious. There is a smarter way to approach this. Welcome to Plant ER Lab, where smart growers discover plant ideas that actually make sense. Today we are talking about one of the most commonly misunderstood plant decisions in home growing, the avocado. Specifically, why a grafted dwarf avocado tree is a fundamentally different investment than a seed-grown tree. We will walk through the fruiting reality, the space logic, the care fit, and one particular advantage of grafted trees that most beginner guides quietly skip over. If you find this kind of practical plant reasoning useful, subscribe to Plant ER Lab so you never miss an idea that could save you time or space in your garden. Here is the framework that matters when you are thinking about growing avocado at home. There are 3 things worth asking before you commit to any avocado plant. First, how long before this tree realistically produces fruit? Second, how much space does it actually need to perform well? And third, how reliably will it produce once it matures? Most people never ask these questions. They start with the seed because it feels like the natural beginning. It is cheap, it is easy to find, and watching something sprout from almost nothing carries its own reward. That part is real. But the seed is only the beginning of a very long story that most guides do not finish telling you. The plant that grows from a seed is genetically unpredictable. It may grow beautifully. It may never fruit. It may fruit eventually, but takes so long to do it that the grower has already moved on. The assumption that a seed-grown avocado is just a slower version of a grafted tree is one of the most common misunderstandings in home avocado growing. They are not the same type of investment. Understanding why changes how you think about the decision completely. Let us start with the most important practical difference, because this one shapes everything else. A seed-grown avocado tree, under good conditions, and with proper care, commonly takes somewhere between 5 and 13 years before it produces fruit. In many home growing situations, it takes even longer. Some seed-grown trees never fruit at all, not because of poor care, but because of natural genetic variation. When you grow an avocado from seed, you are working with a seedling that has its own genetic identity, separate from the parent fruit you took it from. This means the tree's future productivity, fruit quality, and even its tendency to fruit at all are essentially unknown at the start. You are making a long-term commitment to an unknown outcome. A grafted avocado tree works on a completely different principle. Grafting takes a cutting from a proven, productive, already fruiting variety and joins it onto a strong rootstock. The top part of the tree, the part that will eventually flower and fruit, already carries the genetic characteristics of a known reliable producer. This means the tree does not need to go through the long juvenile phase that a seedling does. Under reasonable home conditions, a grafted avocado tree commonly begins producing fruit within 2 to 4 years of planting. Some well-established grafted varieties in suitable climates have been known to produce in as little as 1 to 2 years, though 3 to 4 is a more realistic expectation for most home growers. That gap, the difference between potentially waiting a decade with uncertain results and waiting 2 to 4 years with a known variety, is the core reason why grafted trees make more practical sense for home growers who actually want fruit. If the goal is simply to grow a beautiful green plant, a seed-grown avocado can do that well. But if the goal is fruit, the calculation changes entirely. This is the first clear reason why the choice between seed and grafted matters far more than most beginners realize when they first decide to grow an avocado at home. Speed is one part of the grafted avocado advantage, but it is not the only part. There is a second benefit that is equally important for home growers, and this is the one I hinted at in the opening, the reliability factor that most beginner guides skip over entirely. When you buy a named grafted avocado variety, something like Wurtz, Lamb, Hass, or another recognized compact variety, you are not just buying a faster fruiting tree. You are buying a tree whose fruit characteristics are already known. The size of the fruit, the flavor profile, the skin texture, the oil content, these traits come from the scion wood, the grafted upper portion, and they are consistent with the parent variety. You know what you are growing toward. That kind of clarity has real practical value for a home grower who is planning a small garden, a container setup, or a patio growing area with limited space for experimentation. A seed-grown tree, by contrast, produces a genetically unique plant. Even if you take the seed from an exceptionally good-tasting Hass avocado, the tree that grows from that seed will not be a Hass. It will be its own genetic mix, and that tree's fruit, if it fruits at all, may be smaller, thinner fleshed, more fibrous, or simply less satisfying than the original fruit. This is not a flaw in the seed. It is simply how avocado genetics work. Avocados do not reproduce true to type from seed, which is precisely why commercial orchards and serious home growers rely on grafted trees when fruit production is the actual goal. The grafting process essentially locks in a proven result. It removes the long, uncertain wait of the juvenile seedling phase and replaces it with a tree that is already, in a horticultural sense, mature at the top. The rootstock handles vigor and soil adaptation. The scion handles fruit identity. Together, they create a tree that is far more predictable, far more space efficient in its productive life, and far more suited to a home grower who values both time and results. Now let us talk about the dwarf part of this equation, because the size factor is just as important as the grafting factor for most home growers. And it is often the detail that makes the difference between a tree that actually works in a real home garden and one that eventually outgrows the space entirely. A standard avocado tree, left to grow naturally, can reach anywhere from 9 to 18 meters in height depending on the variety and climate. That scale makes sense for an orchard. It does not make sense for a backyard, a patio, a balcony, or any kind of container-based growing setup. A seed-grown avocado, if given good conditions, will trend toward full tree size over time. Managing it as a small tree requires consistent and deliberate pruning, and even then, the root system and general growth habit are working against the goal of keeping it compact. A grafted dwarf avocado variety is bred and selected specifically for compact growth. Variants like Wurtz, sometimes called Little Kadai, typically stay within 2 to 4 meters in height, and with container growing or regular light pruning, they can be managed even smaller. This compact size is not just cosmetically convenient. It has real practical consequences. A smaller tree is easier to hand-pollinate if needed. It is easier to net for protection against birds or fruit fly. It is easier to inspect for pests or early signs of disease. And in a container, it remains genuinely manageable across multiple growing seasons, rather than becoming a rooting and repotting challenge after the first few years. Container growing also opens up a flexibility that full-size trees simply cannot offer. A potted dwarf avocado can be moved to follow sunlight across seasons, brought under cover during unusual cold snaps, or repositioned to better suit a terrace or balcony layout. For growers who do not have deep ground space, but do have strong sunlight and a reasonable outdoor growing area, this mobility is a meaningful practical advantage. The dwarf characteristic, combined with the grafting advantage, creates a genuinely different kind of plant, one that fits real home growing conditions rather than simply being a smaller version of something designed for large open land. A grafted dwarf avocado tree makes strong, practical sense for the right grower in the right situation. And part of making a good plant decision is understanding clearly where that fit applies and where it does not. Avocados, including dwarf, grafted varieties, perform best in warm climates with mild winters. They are sensitive to frost, particularly when young, and a hard freeze can damage or kill the tree regardless of how well it has been cared for. If you are growing in a climate with cold winters, container growing with the ability to move the tree under cover during cold periods gives you far more flexibility than a ground-planted tree. In a genuinely frost-free climate with good sunlight and reasonably well-draining soil, a grafted dwarf variety can thrive outdoors with relatively modest attention once it is established. In terms of ongoing care, grafted dwarf avocado trees are not unusually demanding, but they do have real requirements. They need consistent moisture without waterlogging. Avocados are notably sensitive to root rot in poorly draining soil or overwatered containers. They benefit from a well-balanced fertilizer program, particularly during active growth periods. Potassium and nitrogen matter for fruit development, but over-fertilizing is a genuine risk that can push vegetative growth at the expense of flowering. Light is non-negotiable. Avocados need strong, direct sunlight for most of the day to flower and fruit reliably. A shaded balcony or an indirect light corner will not give you the results that a well-positioned sunny spot will. Pollination is also worth understanding. Most avocado varieties benefit from cross-pollination, and while some self-pollination does occur, fruit set is generally better with two compatible trees nearby or with hand pollination in smaller growing setups. This is not a deal breaker, but it is a realistic factor that growers in very small spaces should plan for. None of these requirements are extreme, but they are real. A grafted dwarf avocado tree rewards attentive, practical care with a genuinely productive and space-appropriate result. It is best suited to growers who are serious about the outcome and willing to match the tree's needs honestly. So let us bring this back to the real decision. Growing an avocado from seed is not wrong. It can be rewarding as a growing experiment, and a healthy seed-grown avocado can make a genuinely attractive houseplant or garden tree. But if you are growing an avocado because you want fruit, real, reliable, homegrown fruit from a tree that fits your actual space, then the seed-grown root carries a set of disadvantages that are easy to underestimate at the start and very difficult to recover from later. A grafted dwarf avocado tree removes the three biggest friction points in home avocado growing. It shortens the wait from a potential decade or more to a realistic 2 to 4 years. It removes the genetic uncertainty and replaces it with a known, proven variety whose fruit characteristics you can plan around. And the dwarf growth habit makes it genuinely manageable in containers, on patios, on balconies, and in smaller backyard spaces where a full-size avocado tree would eventually become unworkable. The best fit for this tree is a grower who has access to strong sunlight, is willing to manage watering and drainage carefully, and understands that avocados need a bit of attention to perform at their best. It is not a completely hands-off plant, but for a grower who is prepared to meet those needs, a grafted dwarf avocado tree is one of the most rewarding practical fruit trees you can invest in for a home-growing setup. If this kind of clear, practical plant reasoning is useful to you, the kind that explains the real logic behind a plant choice rather than just listing facts, then hit the like button so more growers can find this content. Drop a comment below and let us know whether you are already growing avocado at home, or whether you are still deciding which direction makes more sense for your space. And if you want more ideas like this, one practical, grounded, and genuinely worth your time, subscribe to Plant ER Lab. We discover smart plant ideas that actually make sense for real growers. And there are more of them coming.